It's a really good time to bet the mountain right now because the all-knowing computer money has not been so all-knowing lately. In fact, their machines, their algorithms must be sputtering because I can think of 6 or 7 times at least over the course of the last couple of race cards when the wrong horse was favored. And the horse that should have been chalked to begin with, pretty obviously, ended up winning and making the late money pay. The most egregious example, I think, was probably last night's fifth race. You guys might recall Rhodes shipping in from Thistledown. I was so sure that Rhodes would get off at some ridiculously short price that I posted some sarcastic comment to that effect on a banner on my website here. And instead, Rhodes, who looked like an absolute dead certain winner for reasons I won't reiterate or pound anymore on here, but they're a matter of record on my archived commentary from last night's show. Rhodes should have been 6-5 even money, and I thought he would probably go lower. Instead, Rhodes ends up no lower than third favorite. Check out the chart in last night's fifth race and paid 880. I was astonished, couldn't believe it. So it's a really good time to bet Mountaineer right now. The always enigmatic and somewhat inscrutable Mountaineer has lately been given the computer guys or the self-appointed wise guys that dominate the win pool and the other pools at Mountaineer fits, just absolute fits. And it's always a good time to congregate here in the dungeon. Welcome to my dungeon. This is a place where we will share our deepest, darkest ideas, handicapping thoughts, tough beat stories. You guys know the drill, and you're very welcome, and I appreciate you making this scene. No rain today. So the grass course, I guess, did dry out enough that they're going to run on it tonight. It is listed good. Although my yard, I tested that out this afternoon. It felt more yielding to me. But the Mountaineer lawn is good. And the Mountain Main is fast, by the way. The Mountain Main is fast. 3 grass races coming at you tonight. And a couple of them are really good. One of them is a really rapid 5-furlong allowance that looks to be dominated by a real sizzler up from Charlestown, Honeyquist. So that race looks like all but a walkover. Another one has a really deep field. I think it's the second race on your program. Very competitive, non-life 12-5 claimer that includes 5 grass winners, I think, and a couple others that have placed on turf, and a lot of current form to choose from, and a good variety of running styles too represented in there. So that's some good action coming from the Place the Action Peaks tonight. I was astonished that horse gets off at almost 7-2 last night. It renewed my faith in humanity and in betting on horses. And that's not the only instance. And you can check out some of my videos. I think some folks do go back after the fact and watch them because that's when a lot of the hits come in on the hit counts. And I can think of, again, at least 6 or 7 times when I called the tote board out for making the wrong favorite. And the horse that I said should have been favored did win. Did absolutely go on to win. And that's got nothing to do with the Mountaineer Morning Line, the much maligned Mountaineer Morning Line, which is better tonight, which is better. Got to give credit where credit's due. Still not completely accurate in all instances, I don't think, but what Lines Maker is, and at least whoever's doing the odds down there now is hitting the numbers and constructing it according to proper mathematical formula. So let's take a look at the first race here. Do you guys or anybody in your household turn the air on and then get under a blanket or something like that? My wife is upstairs right now watching TV, curled up under a blanket with the air just blasting our central air like 2 feet from her. There's a register. Why not cut the air, save the electricity, ditch the blanket, and come out in the same place? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Same way I don't understand people that go to the gym and turn a fan on. Get a big honking fan and put it in their face. It's called a workout, not a play out, a workout. Why work out at all if you want to keep yourself cool and not sweat? Our first race is dirt, 6 furlongs. This is kind of a trick condition, 5,000 claiming, non-winners in 12 months except $4,000. Or lower, doesn't count. So there's the clause, that all-important clause that permits $4,000 wins and as many as you may have compiled in the last 12 months. The first thing that jumps out of this field, there's a lot of speed. Number 3, Kiss for Kozan. The Kiss for Kozan's very rapid, especially going 6 furlongs. Hopped in the air at the start last time. and couldn't get the lead on a toward opening quarter there. 22 and one's fast for that kind of competition, and a quick half mile as well. I think her race was run just catching up to the pace down the backstretch, which is not to say that she can get 6 furlongs. Even at her best, I think she's going to have a big problem getting the 6 panels. And her win before last was 4,000, but it was, and those are the only kind of wins that are permitted, recent wins under this header, but it was non-winners in 12 months. It was the lowest veteran race written at Mountaineers, so the bar was really low there. There was nobody to come closing on her. She put that field to sleep right out of the gate by opening a couple of lengths. I don't think she proved much there. A Kiss for Kozan. This is an old Krista Hedrick / Jamin Davidovich horse, is A Kiss for Kozan. And Jaybird jumped in and claimed this horse from Jeff Fletcher and protected her from claim. A couple of 8,000s and then a couple of starter allowance tries too, which tells me she might be halfway sound. A Kiss for Kozan, but I'm skeptical of her 6 furlong stamina. And she's going to have a horse or two breathing on her, I think, early. Number 6, Crystal Proof, just to kind of continue laying out the pace here. And I'll go over and check the odds out while I continue to talk here. And I see where the comments are starting to filter in. And welcome in, guys. It's good to see you. Was the handoff from Mountaineer down last Wednesday? Because my viewership was down for last Wednesday. Either there's more competition out there on a Wednesday night, or else some of the Mountaineer fans are still not aware that they picked up Wednesday nights. And it is 8 minutes to post, and I'm taking a look at the odds board. Number 6, Crystal Proof, is 7-2. Crystal Proof, front running wing going 4.5 in Phoenix there, and then comes to the mountain. And really didn't fire first time out of the box. Had been away since January, Crystal Proof, so needed one sharpener, and then came back and ran a lot better. And what was a pretty competitive 4.5 furlong race there. Now, some of the speed scratched out of there, but the Gate Noir winner, who would see the number disqualified, had a lot of early foot, a lot of short sprint quickness. So Crystal Proof dropped back and played the role of finisher, which is always encouraging. But you see this a lot when a horse that might be able to get 5.5 or maybe 6 on a dare, when given the lead, can actually pass horses in a front-loaded 4.5 or 5 race. It happens frequently. Crystal Proof, I think, would be much dicier to pass anybody at all here at 6 furlongs and win. More likely, she would play the role of attacker and maybe pursue A Kiss for Kozan with all she's got and attempt to tie into that one around the far turn. Crystal Proof. So I don't think her style is ideal for the way this race is going to set up going 6 furlongs. Crystal Proof. And she helps to make this a speed-loaded race. And Girl By on the outside. How Girl By can ever be 3-1, I have no idea. She's not going to stay 3-1. Girl By. I think her big 15 minutes of fame at Mountaineer was stealing a 7H turf race. She got a soft lead against far classier competition than this. No such heroics last time, though. She gets her lead and still folds to 5th. So she's not the horse that she was, Girl By. At the time before, she was 3rd. But again, I think she's better on turf. And that was a 5H race. What she does bring to the table, Girl By, is snappy early zip, even in shorter races than this. She's always been better on grass and probably on synthetics. She's no champ on dirt, just 1 for 23. I don't think she wants a full big girl 6 furlongs on dirt. And she is not going to like what they throw at her early here, but they might not like what she throws at them either. So I think she helps to ensure that the pace is going to be very rapid for this kind of an affair. So it's, I think, a really obvious setup for somebody, correct? And the horse that looks obvious to me is Legacy Trail. Legacy Trail ran a good number 2 back and got good and relaxed early and wins it pulling away after a powerful surge on the turn, sustained that move, and then comes back at 5-2 in a higher class race than this that was won by a Thistledown Invader with inscrutable past performances. Was kind of hard to read, but was visually impressive and fired big for Nestor Rivera coming in from Ohio there. Legacy Trail gets hard sent along the inside. Sometimes Ramjeet is just a total train wreck who rides thoughtless races sometimes because he will gun a deep closer until he runs right up somebody's hindquarters or sees that he's in tight or realizes belatedly that those tactics aren't going to work. And then he takes back. That's exactly what happened on Legacy Trail. He's gunning, send. And a race that he had no chance to get the lead and very little chance to get forward position without completely exhausting his mound. So he should have taken his medicine, dropped back, and then came with one late move, which probably would have resulted in a win, if not a comfortable win. But instead, he's gunning. He gets himself in tight. He sucks back. He swings like 5 wide on the grandstand side. Legacy Trail, I thought, ran a ton last time. And if Legacy Trail just drops back in here, just drops back nice and smoothly and doesn't attempt to keep up with anybody down the backstretch, I think she's pretty certain to pay them a visit later on, because I don't think she has to come and get them. I think there's a good chance they'll come back to her. Number 2, Legacy Trail. All this, I would say, is going to be reflected in her win price before the smoke clears, because that money on Girl Buy's got to disappear. Who is making Girl Buy 5-2 in here? This just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Showing 1 win on the hard copy form. That's on grass, what she likes. That's at 5/8, a distance she prefers to 6 panels. And she was loose on the lead there, which she is unlikely to manage from the likes of a Kiss for Kozan there. So that money's going to disappear. And I think it's going to pop up on the Purdue Legacy Trail. A Tall Girl is a horse I know pretty well and cashed a couple of tickets on at Mahoning over the wintertime. Tall Girl went against the bias, had an inside trip, and the inside was no good on November the 10th. And boy, that set her up in my mind to come back and win a couple of races. And she would win her next 2, only to see the number come down once. And boy, I still lament that. So next time I still get 5-1 on her, and I couldn't believe it. Tall Girl cut her teeth as a route horse, but then maybe found her true calling sprinting in a surprisingly alert manner. Tall Girl, but she seems to be off form, and this is a pretty competitive race. And Tall Girl would have to drop back here, not be ridden aggressively, and maybe come later in a manner more befitting a former route horse. But again, I think current form is a big question when it comes to Tall Girl. 52-1 on Future Flay. Somebody read the condition literally here and didn't catch the clause. The cheaper ones don't count. It's really that simple, guys. And Polyester Bride on the inside. I never picked Polyester Bride because she's just not sexy. She never looms the likeliest winner to me. But she has reinvented herself several times. Was originally a front-running sprinter, I think, for Dennis Cluey, and then became a deep closing sprinter when she forgot how to break. And then Jamie Poole stretched her out. She became a route horse. She can stalk at a route, or she can rally a little bit. Sprinting, though, she's a deep closer. And that style could be flattered here for sure. And Jamie Poole does win with some long shots now and then. But Polyester Bride on paper, just not nearly as good as Legacy Trail. And I mean not nearly Polyester Bride. She's 9-1 on the inside. And given the pace complexion here, not surprised at all if she gets a piece of this and finishes somewhere in the trifecta, I would say. That second race is a dandy on turf. And I can make case for numerous horses there in race number 2. I would say don't leave the 1 horse off your ticket. Change in Jamaica if you're going to play the daily double. I would definitely say that. But there are some other solid shots there. If Bosley can dispatch Wings of God, and Bosley's probably faster than Wings of God, without a lot of difficulty, Bosley could redeem himself with a win. Royal Salute was really sharp last time when ridden with some patience and a switch from the previous strategy. And Analyst was in trouble a couple back and has a late style. And but that race is just replete with contenders. Race number 2. The first race, I think, is more obvious. I think Legacy Trail looms your likeliest winner. So Legacy Trail wins time before last. Should have won the most recent race with a more paper trip and wins tonight. It's not even close. Legacy Trail had a grand setup there. It's the best horse on paper to begin with. You know the price was going to go south. It did 4-5 with the extra 20 cents, but it felt like free money to me on Legacy Trail, just absolute free money. So Legacy Trail gets the job done with the horse that took early money, ending up a really good second, Girl By. 6 furlongs on dirt is not her bag, baby, but I think somebody knew she was live tonight to run her very best because she took that early money and dispatched the other speeds with plenty of difficulty, and then still hangs in there to be second. It's a big performance from Girl By. If they get her out on grass at a more suitable distance anytime in the near future, look out for Girl By. Plus, a Girl By is eligible for an easier race than this. She's eligible to run straight up non-winners in 12 months without any 4,000 or less, doesn't count. And in a race like that, she would not hook a Legacy Trail or a Kiss for Kozan to make her run hard for the lead. Just a technicality, but not a small one, not a small one at all. Got to read the fine print on these races to figure out how wisely these horses have been spotted. She's eligible for easier than this, much easier. Girl By. Two aspects to horse training: understanding of the game, what kind of horses to buy, how to spot them, what strategy to employ, what distance, what footing, what's the optimum condition to run them in, stuff like that. And then the pure horsemanship, how much run can a trainer get out of a horse? Two completely different aspects of being a thoroughbred trainer. And not too many excel at both. Second race is a good one. The most competitive race of the night. This is 1 mile on the turf. This is a number 3, 12-5 claiming. And let's count the horses in there that have won on grass. Change at Jamaica Mon, the one horse, has done that, as has number 3, Keen Surge. Number 6, Rural Salute's a 2-time turf winner. That's 3. West Hampton, a 2-time turf winner. That's 4. And Bosley has won on grass. That's 5. So 5 of these 9 have triumphed on turf. And this race has got speed. It's got some stalkers. It's got some late styles. It just reeks with current form. Last out winners, winners time before last. Very tasty race to sink our handicapping chops into, in my opinion. Number 1, Change It Jamaica. We'll go right down the line here. Change It Jamaica has not been sold since the Florida form. And you guys know that's the way I prefer it. It's better psychology when the people paying the bills are optimistic enough about the horse's earnings potential to keep paying the freight here at Mountaineer instead of selling the horse into servitude. So Change It Jamaica would sustain that rally sometimes in those 2-turn turf races at Gulfstream Park, no less. Also, Change It Jamaica won right up on the pace. In fact, got a hard-fought lead at second. Colin goes on to win at Gulfstream Park there. So Change It Jamaica, I think, can adapt a little bit to how the race plays out, the dynamics up front. And Change at Jamaica gets over to dirt, first time ever on dirt last time, and wins by 7. Now, didn't beat anybody and got help up front because there were a couple of horses on the lead there that just did not figure to go on with it, and they didn't. So Change It Jamaica, that's an inflated margin of victory, but I like the Beyer speed fig, and Change It Jamaica was visually impressive there too, and gets back to grass, which is still probably a better game for Change It Jamaica. Now you get Oliveras, who's a master on turf. And it's pretty simple. There's no wizardry involved. There's no witchery involved. He's been dubbed the turf witch. He has got guts and tight quarters. He's extremely patient. He's smart enough to understand if you wheel around him on grass, it ain't going to work the way it often does on dirt. And he's uncanny at finding seams. And he's very patient. And he can also finish on a thoroughbred racehorse. So I don't want to talk him up like he's the second coming of Eddie Arcaro or anything like that, because he's got weaknesses as a race rider, but he's really good on turf. Unfortunately, he also drives the price down if you happen to like his mounts when it comes to grass. Change It Jamaica, I think might be the most versatile horse in the race in terms of can make a push button move through the interiors and maybe get first run on some of the other lates, or can drop back and play the patient game if they're going too quickly up front. And plus, you got a jock here that is probably going to try to split horses or save some ground and draft in behind at some point, wherever he's at or whatever he's advancing into in this race. Number two, Lucky's Prize. Lucky's Prize gets over on grass for the first time. I think that Mike Baird bred this mare to Mockin and came up with a horse, Mockin Rain, that has won a couple on grass. So he's going to try Lucky's Prize on grass. And for an Ohio bred who's kept state restricted company throughout, this is a very high bar for Lucky's Prize. So I wouldn't even think about it. Number three, Keen Surge. Keen Surge is a grass winner. Keen Surge is recent, has been running at Presque Isle. Maybe doesn't like the synthetics. Maybe gets back to turf and does a little bit better, but seems to have lost a lot of his mojo, since he was claimed at 3-5 on the class drop 6 days before Christmas. And I preach this all the time. Class dropping chalk that gets claimed very often wins, but very rarely works out well for the proud new owners. Just almost never. Not my first option, or really a contender in my mind. Keen Surge. Analyst might be interesting for part of this if things get heated up top, if they go hard enough. And I think that's open to question here. Analyst got in trouble a couple of times on May the 19th. They were probably is going to win it from a horse who's really hot right now. Had her number put up the other night against a very good foe. Let me know before you go. So Analyst ran huge time before last, and most recently ran into a very tough ticket there. That's the race that Shane Myers won with a horse that had won a couple of times at Colonial on grass, one of them by 7 lengths or 8 lengths, I think. So Analyst might find this a little bit easier spot than he was in last and might be able to muster some kind of a late move, although there's other late kick in here. And this is a very, very deep field. Maybe nobody quite as good as the horse that trounced that field, that Shane Myers comebacker. But from top to bottom, this is probably a more competitive, deeper bunch. Wings of God got all the way down to $4,000 last time. And I'll get to the comments sooner than later, I promise, guys. Wings of God got all the way down to $4,000 last time and was not able to win it despite being out there in a very soft lead. I think that's kind of a black mark against Wings of God, although there was another dropper that beat Wings of God. I started to doubt this horse a little bit when he had dead aim on a stopping leader at 5.5 furlongs, the shortest distance he's run there on his page on May the 5th, and hung. I thought he hung that day, and I did not think it might bode well for the immediate future when it came to Wings of God, who's got some sprint speed, certainly possesses route speed. I don't think he's likely to straight up get the lead from Bosley, but he could give Bosley literal hell through the early stages here if the jockey so chooses to do that. I think it's possible. It's just a matter, I think, of how much horse that Gonzalez has got to use on Bosley to dispatch Wings of God here. And then you got Royal Salute, the 6 horse who's 2-1 up there. Royal Salute wins an allowance last time. The speeds were kind of accommodating to Royal Salute. That race was kind of loaded with early foot. And my observation beforehand was if he's ridden patiently enough, and that would fly in the face of the aggressive tactics that they used with him at Gulfstream Park when he used to go out there and vie or make a real early bid and then back up. But he was ridden more patiently on June 9th, and that fit the situation there. And he came through with a pretty snappy win, Royal Salute, ridden the same way. And the Barbarian is at least as good a tactician as his Oliveros. That's one of his hidden strengths, one of his strong suits, tactics, the Barbarian. And I'm betting you he went to school on the way Oliveros rationed Royal Salute last time. So Royal Salute could well come back with another big race. This is not a negative drop at all. And he's a winner over the local lawn. And he's on a short list of horses that have done that. West Hampton's done it. Bosley has done it. And I think that's about it for winners over the local turf, a subset of turf winners. Number 7, West Hampton. I loved last time when I put him on the broadcast because had a brutal trip the time before and was closing on a then highly regarded Bosley, who would come back to stub his toe as the 3-2 favorite Bosley, who's number 9 in here. But West Hampton ran into Bosley at Bosley's best when Bosley was in total control of a moderate pace. And West Hampton had a very rough trip there, or else it would have been a lot closer. And then last time, Montserrat just sweeps around him with an Arazi move, which can be wasteful on turf, can be premature. I'm not sure those tactics would work here, but I'm sure Montserrat's going to try to do the same thing again. I will say that State of Attack, who was in tonight's fourth in tonight's third race, which is also on the grass, was in trouble there, or would have been a lot closer to West Hampton at the wire. A lot closer to West Hampton, who was losing some of that lead in the final stages there. Built-in class jump written into these conditions. And West Hampton does find a higher bar here than last time. Back in a minute. I see my man Bombs Away, Bob Grant in the house. Welcome, Bob. Welcome, Kevin. Banger is with us, as is Hubert Gaffney. And then we've got my man Lyrics. Always like to see Lyrics. Good friend of mine. George, welcome, George. Brian, I know Brian really well. And there is Timmy Z. Welcome back, Timmy Z. David Pittman, yeah. Appreciate it, man. Michael Zeisler. I appreciate his patronage for sure. And I see where Bombs Away and Alert Guys said that the 1, 6, 7, and 9 are all about even Steven in the daily double pool. They are all turf winners, and they all have a chance here. You can make case for any of them, although I think the least likely of that quartet is probably West Hampton, who would not have won by such an expansive margin last time unless the place horse got in some kind of trouble. And I'm not sure that those hero tactics, I don't care how much ground I lose. I don't care if I'm making a premature hero move. I'm not sure that's going to work here with West Hampton. And I'm not sure that Montserrat can do better than that in the saddle. And then you've got Bosley. Bosley was getting good last year. Bosley likes the turf. And Bosley was pushed through some torrid fractions at a shorter distance there on May 17th when he probably wasn't two-turn ready. So next time he was something good to eat. And the public was all over that at 6-5. Now, we worked a little harder to get command on June 21st. I'm not sure that that was excuse enough to lose by 5 lengths. I do think that winner's better than whoever's going to be moving at him tonight. I think Bosley will put Wings of God away. But I would need a crystal ball to tell you how easy that lead's going to be to come by for Bosley. It was definitely a player, but I'm not in any big hurry to bet the ranch on him either. And I see they're still on the main track and have yet to cross over to the grass. I went to the state park today, not the one that I live adjacent to, Tomlinson Run, which is just a beautiful place. It's a great park, great state park. I went to Beaver Creek State Park over in Ohio and just walked around a 1.5 mile loop a couple of times just for some light exercise. But why do guys bring their souped up hot rod power cars onto what is technically a road, but is really a walking trail with concrete on it, and tool around there with their arm hanging out the window and rev the freaking thing up every time they drive by me and make me get off again the concrete road, which is really a glorified walking path. Why? So I can look at their hot rod? I don't give a shit about your car, man. And if you cruise by me one more time within 1 foot of me and rev up the engine and make me eat the exhaust, I may drag you out of your hot rod car and stick about half of it up your ass. I popped the guy the finger. And then another one of his ilk comes by about 5 minutes later. Dude, there's nobody here to look at you with your arm hanging out the window and your sunglasses on, or your highly polished vintage hot rod car that's loud enough to create a public disturbance. Go drive it someplace else. This is a place of serenity to enjoy nature, which I don't, or to get some exercise in solitude, which I relish. Good luck in this race, guys. Probably too deep a field to warrant a wager on my part. I'm thinking about the one horse, but I'm not real certain I'm going to pull that trigger. if my man Bombs Away was correct and the 1, 6, 7, and 9 were all roughly equal in the daily double pool there to 4 to 5 first race winner Legacy's Trail, then the win pool looked nothing like that as the big late money correctly smoked out Bosley and made Bosley 6 to 5. Bosley had no trouble. And instead of had a crystal ball and I could look a couple of 100 yards into the race, then I could tell you about Bosley. And when he topped the 5 horse with little effort, then Bosley was long gone. As a 6 to 5 favorite, Bosley was pushed much harder to the first call last time, sub 23. And Bosley was in with a better field, at least the winner, much better than what Bosley took on here. There's a school of thought, very popular school of thought, that horses with high cutting action, like the turf, Bosley is the exact opposite. He moves way up on the lawn, but Bosley, his action is about as low as you're going to find. Bosley runs with a low head and never lifts the knees a whole lot. Not a lot of knee lift there. Bosley's got really low action, but certainly turned out to be one dandy of a grass horse. Bosley, who took all the money there to go 6 to 5 there with the late dough. Wow. And put the rest of them back on their heels right off the bat. Our next race, not as deep. This is a lower condition, never 2 for the 12-5. I'm sorry, this is 15,000. We're going a mile on the turf again in this race. I think we've got, let us see. And this is a good way to start out when you handicap turf races at Mountaineer. We've got 1 in Mr. Business, the 3. He's going to be the favorite, by the way, Mr. Business. We've got 1, 2, Red Fern, exactly 2 turf winners signed on for this. Red Fern did it. When the odds were suspiciously low, they decided to bet Red Fern down to 5 to 2 off some ugly form when he was in at Tampa there in a maiden claimer and ran kind of a low-octane Beyer fig. So I got to believe he didn't beat a whole lot. And we changed his barns for this. It's been sold since his most recent races, Red Fern, and didn't seem to like the synthetics a lot. Regressed last time. A lot of turf horses were supposed to like the synthetics. So I would tend to discount him, even though he's one of this field's 2 turf winners. The other turf winner, number 3, Mr. Business. Mr. Business comes here with the same owners that were paying the bills on him, I think. I will tell you this. I looked it up, and Jaybird has a high strike rate for Siesta Thoroughbred Racing, and that's a big positive. In fact, a good flat bet profit, too, if you bet religiously on this owner-trainer team. Now, Mr. Business is one of the 2 turf winners signed on for this race, and Mr. Business did it at Tampa there, and then would come back to run a couple of competitive 4s and beat more than half of those fields at Tampa on February the 11th and March the 25th. And on February the 11th, he sets the pace. He does get a little tired late, but at least he's still almost in front of the furlong grounds. And then next time, he was hooked about 4, 5 wide into the first turn. I watched that video this afternoon, and that takes him right out of his preferred front-running style. So that's a pretty good effort from Mr. Business. Now, did not like the dirt last time. This is only foray onto conventional dirt, Mr. Business. The big thing he's got, there's a big plus here and a big minus, and I'm going to tell you what they are. The big plus here is there is absolutely no speed in this race, aside from Mr. Business. Mr. Business should completely have his way with this field through the early going. Set the pace as he pleases. No 22 and changes like he was forced to go and forced to push at Tampa a couple of times. Now he should be in total control here at a much more leisurely clip. But a big knock on this horse is when you look at Jay Bernardini's stat and it shows him 20%, virtually 20% with horses off this long, you got to drill down a little more deeply into that. I think it's very deceptive because on Formulator, and a guy who handicaps from Formulator, and I pulled up my own trainer stat on Bernardini, and I pulled up every one of his route winners over the last several years. I found 122 of them. And out of 122 route winners, how many do you think had been away 90 days or more? And we're about 90 days at the 90-day mark with Mr. Business. 3. I found 3 out of 122 Jay Bernardini route winners at a bona fide 2 turns that had been away from their races as long or longer than Mr. Business. And if that ain't a knock on your probable favorite, I don't know what is. I think it's probably counterbalanced by a couple of things. For one, he does really well for these owners, and that's important. And also, the psychology is different with grass horses. These barns will endeavor to have them fit for turf uh, much more seriously than they would with a dirt horse coming back to the races on dirt for a lot of different reasons. So Mr. Business looms very much the one to beat, I would say. I think the positives outweigh the negatives here for sure. But how short a price you want to take is another matter because I think you're going to see a short price on Mr. Business. Did you notice my banner? My take on tonight's morning line, I had Polyester Bride 2-1 there. It will be much higher. Polyester Bride was 2-1 on the freaking morning line. And I had will be much higher there. I don't think I posted this banner before the race. My apologies. And in fact, Polyester Bride, you got off at 19-1 there. 19-1. I've got two more listed a little bit later on. Thought, who's the 2-1 morning line chalk in the nightcap, is going to be lower than 2-1, believe me. And she's so bearish, like Polyester Bride, a Jamie Poole horse, who's listed 9-2 in the sixth race, is going to be higher. Is going to be considerably higher. So those are misconstrued price points on the Mountaineer program. And I've also got some race flow notes that are one of my features here in the dungeon. And I'm going to put my race flow notes up there and scroll them right across the bottom. I don't have anything coming up until the sixth race. And I don't post obvious things on the race flow notes generally, but more likely pivotal things that either tend to factor heavily, if not outright dictate who wins a race, or things that could alter the trajectory of how a race ends up. So getting back to the third, and I don't usually pick on price points in grass races because if they come off the turf, then it's wasted motion. It's wasted energy on my part. When I glanced at the tote board a couple of minutes ago, Raji, the 4, was actually the favorite here. So I'm going to take another look at this. And Raji at 5-2 is still heavily supported there. And in fact, is the favorite. It's got to be Mr. Business in the final analysis here to be chalked. Raji, the win was on dirt, and Raji, out of 6 turf tries, has been in the money 4 times. Might be okay at the distance based on the Santa Anita ancient Roman history back in 2023. But Raji's win was for a modest $4,000 going 5.5 on dirt. And Raji can't be the soundest of creatures because Raji only out twice in 2024, off a year, 3 starts in 2025, and then sidelined again for more than 10 months. Raji boy. Now, he was running on last time at 5/8. I don't think that was a real salty field, but it was wired, and that is keeping with the track profile at 5/8 on grass. You can't run from as far back as Raji attempted to there, so probably a better chance tonight. But I don't know if this is a horse I'd rely on because of all the gaps and the sparseness of his campaign there. Raji, have to be some serious issues back at the barn. But Raji likes the turf, and Raji's going to like this distance on grass, the profile of how it plays a lot better than he did that 5/8 last time. So Diane, a good friend of mine, says, tune in for racing advice. Hopefully I can give you some of that. But what you get on the side chat, priceless, more than willing to pay. I don't want a dime from you guys. If it comes to that, then I'm in trouble. It's not that I couldn't use the money because I'm unemployed, but I'm okay. My wife's an RN, but I need to recoup the cost of all this equipment I put in here. And the only way I'm going to get paid is if I can get the subscription level up to 500 to get paid on YouTube. So I don't want you guys to give me a dime, but I would much appreciate if you guys help me spread the word because I'm still convinced that 90% of my fans from Mountain Deer, and I had a pretty widespread fan base. I have no idea that I'm even still alive, much less what I am doing right now. I have fans with their numbers in my phone. But I would say out of all the folks that watch me religiously in Mountain, maybe 1/10 of them actually ever texted me. So I am hard pressed to figure out how to get in touch with them. So I don't want you guys to give me any money, but I would much appreciate if you guys help me spread the word near and far about what I'm doing here so I can jack the subscription number up if possible. El Kozan, 2 tries on turf and neither any good. Almost had to win at 40 cents on the dollar at 5.5 on dirt there. Not really a contender. State of Attack's a player here, I would say. State of Attack was second last time to West Hampton. West Hampton did not flatter State of Attack, but that was a really deep second race, and State of Attack was pinched back at the break there, or else I think he would have been a lot closer and was in trouble again, I think, through the mid stages, State of Attack. And in his race before last, he was pinched at the start also and was in with Bosley, who may be a star on turf. State of Attack, I think, wants to take position closer to the pace. That's how he won on synthetics at Turfway. Wants to be closer than he has the last couple of times. And I think tonight he might be able to do that because you start counting the sluggish horses that he could conceivably be in front of by the time you get halfway down the backstretch. And he might have a lot better position than he did last time. And again, it was a troubled trip last time for State of Attack. My vacation is winter on synthetics. Sometimes those horses like grass, but that was back in October. And it was rock bottom at Prescal, 75 maiden claimers. Vasquez doesn't usually win first time back off the bench with horses. Sometimes gets busy and starts to crack second, third time off the sidelines. So 2-1 now, and I think destined to go lower. And the Mr. Business, who figures to control the running here. Somebody asked me about Hot Wings in the comments there. Hot Wings, I'm not sure he's a good horse to begin with. I didn't like who he beat Ed Mahoney when he broke maiden. That was dirt on grass. He did set the pace there, aggressively ridden by Whitaker. Arroyo gets on and rides it very differently, and that was so predictable. Did not want to do a Whitaker. Whitaker's style, his gung-ho style, really isn't suited to turns on turf. I knew Arroyo would ride this horse more patiently, which resulted in absolutely nothing last time with Hot Wings. I think the best thing Hot Wings should do is step aside and let his more formidable stablemate set the pace here. Number 3, Mr. Business. I think I left out Wilding Lane as one of this field's grass winners, and maybe on purpose because it was an inflated claimer here at Mountaineer, and this horse has just not raised a hoof in anger since coming off the sidelines this year. It's been quite some time since he graced the trifecta ticket. 1 for 27 and counting, Wildling Lane. I wish that Bernardini had a better record with horses off. The period of time Mr. Business has been away from the game. Were that the case, I would bet with confidence here. But that one little factoid that I took the trouble to look up on Formulator today troubles me about number 3, Mr. Business, although I do think he's the likeliest winner here. Off his Tampa turf form, and one of those races, at least one of them, is a lot better than it looks. And the fact that and this matters on turf, matters more on dirt, but it matters on turf as well. He should completely control his own destiny here. If not, straight up stack this field up through some modest fractions here. Number 3, Mr. Business. And again, State of Attack, troubled trip last time, and is better than his last 2 races, and maybe has a better position trip in store for him here. But none of that's a secret as he's 2-1. We're talking about two 2-1 shots here that I make the race out of. And that's no way to bet. What did Dean Wormer say in Animal House? Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son. Well, to narrow it down to 2-1 shots, there's no way to make money handicapping, friends. So that race was all Jaybird. How many times do we see the longer price of an uncoupled entry win? It happens all the time. I think some players actually use that as an angle. And Hot Wings just never looked like a loser there. He was taken under wraps early. I thought he was really well ridden by Arroyo. The horse does not want to be gunned and sent the way he was a couple back, nor does he want to be way behind like he was last time. And Arroyo split the difference rather skillfully there and managed to maintain his position along the inside without using a lot of horse. Arroyo, I thought it was a fantastic ride that he put on that speed. I think one key to victory there for Hot Wings. So some of you guys liked it. I'm giving you props. I have the Bangers comment up there. How about the other Bernardini Hot Wings? Nice race two back. Chris Connors also liked Hot Wings. And my man George made an apt observation there. I'm no genius, but I read that one well. The Bernardini favorite set it up for the Bernardini long shot. Great price, too, on Hot Wings. I got to be honest, I was not on Team Hot Wings there, but some of you guys were. And a tip of my cap to you guys. The big difference for me, and the thing that kept me from really making a serious bet in the very Mr. Business, was the fact that the Bernardini just never, and this is how deceptive form stats can be, and non-specific. They're showing him 20% in situations like this. He ain't. When you're restricted to routes, and this is a route, the last time I checked, a mile around 2 turns on the Mountaineer lawn, I found like 3 winners out of 122 route winners that had been away 90 days at least for Jay Bernardini. So that was a big, huge knock on Mr. Business, who might have been a little bit short there. It is possible. I have a more interesting question for you guys that were on board Hot Wings there, who was always running just as easily, if not more easily, than Mr. Business. If you flip those 2 riders, and it is not like the par made a wrong move on Mr. Business. He rationed him perfectly. Not a wasteful lead, but always in control. Didn't dare anybody to come up to his throat latch and put a good, strong finish on Mr. Business. But as Arroyo, just a straight up better jockey than Tapara. And if you flip the riders, you get a different result there. That's a question I posed to you guys in the comments, and I'll check back and see what you guys have to say. If you think there would have been a different result if you would flip those riders. And I really shouldn't even pose that question because Tapara did not one thing wrong on the place horse, but Arroyo rode a superior race, I thought, on Hot Wings. One more turf race to go tonight. It's high class allowance, a mixed condition. They filled this a couple of times, I think, at least once on grass. Never for life renominators of 2 in 2026. And boy, there's a stick out here, the likes of which we haven't seen in a grass race so far tonight, although the public thought that Bosley was something akin, if not a lock, to a very likely winner to make him 6-5. Honeyquist is going to be shorter than 6-5 here. Honeyquist has that raw acceleration. 21 and 2 is rarefied speed, going 4.5 at the house that Speed built, Charlestown. I should have patented that and made them pay me for it. The house that Speed built. They don't use it because they didn't think it up. But anyways, yeah, 21 and 2 is about as fast as you can scoot. And this horse has that kind of speed. And he loves to win. And he was second last time in an open allowance to Duncan Idaho. I think Duncan Idaho is something like 18 out of 22 or 23 or something like that. Just an incredible win record that Duncan Idaho has. Arunco charge, I think, Duncan Idaho. Honeyquist can scoot on out of town too. This West Virginia bred and still win. He's wired allowances at Indy, going 5.5. And his turf win, and this is key, and this is going to get him bet to pieces. His turf win was an allowance optional. It was not to be claimed at Ellis, high class Ellis, and even took a little pressure up top and still prevailed. If anything, this horse is probably better on turf than he is on dirt. And on dirt, if he just translates the dirt form over to grass here, nobody in here can touch this horse, Honeyquist. And as an added bonus, by virtue of his suddenness here, his utter rapidity, his proven short sprint quickness and acceleration, he can take a few of these foes right out of their corresponding front-running games. Can Honeyquist. So I think he's got 1-5 written all over him here. Does Honeyquist. A Farrier is not invincible at Mountaineer. When he runs odds-on favorites in allowance races, or at least absolute favorites in allowance races in Mountaineer, he's 4 for 8 for the Farrier tax, a flat bet loss. But I don't think many of those horses lord it over the competition in the manner that Honeyquist does here. Plus, with a style that fits the profile for 5/8 on the turf, and he loves turf to begin with. So let's check out where the odds are right now on Honeyquist, and we'll talk about who might be second to Honeyquist, because that could be the only way to leverage a profit out of this horse, who's 3-5 now, and is going to go down. He will definitely go down. So he faces off with 1, 2, 3, 4 opponents here, 5 opponents he faces off with. And Kiltoom's got a front running style from the inside. Dropkick Murphy came from a little behind last time, outfooted, and still braved it up to win, did Dropkick Murphy. So he's a horse that might keep trying even after Honeyquist makes his head spin through the early stages here. Blistering, a one-dimensional front runner. Blistering, I'm not sure he's got the 5/8 lick anyways, blistering, and he's never been over on grass. He's been on grass a couple of times and didn't run so hot, blistering. Eric Reed likes to run him on turf. I think I said one time on a broadcast that he likes turf more than turf likes him. Marcella Monarch is the only come-off type that goes against Honeyquist here, so that's a pretty good exacta strategy with the dominant speed, who figures to lay over this field and outclass them to begin with. Honeyquist, with the field's only closer second. Now, this is an 8-year-old that was only run 17 times and only started twice in 2025. And that's after being away from the races for like 22 months. So skipped 2024 there. So, I mean, he's got some problems. He's got some issues. And he was in a far lesser spot last time, was Marcella Monarch. But he is 2 for 3 on turf, does have a win at this distance over this course, and could be the only thing moving late, Marcella Monarch, but moving from way back, I would say, huh? Back in a minute. Somebody put in the comments that the Jared Jones, and I'm a devout Pirate fan, I got money involved too over the season win total. Hope it's 79 or more. Jared Jones, who's got that 100-mile-per-hour heater that he was pitching a no-no, somebody mentioned a couple of races back. Well, the Braves now have one single hit, so I assume Jones has been pulled on a pitch count. Now that there is no possibility of a no-hitter there. Score still 0-0. The second place prospects, I think Marcella Monarch from way back, and also number 2, Dropkick Murphy, who's pretty brave amongst the opposing speeds. At least he ran without the lead last time and came on to score. That was not vintage Dropkick Murphy, though. Certainly lost his fastball when he went to Austintown over the cold weather months. And I'm not sure that he's back in vintage form. Had to drop into a $10,000 condition race to win last time. And who knows what kind of trip he's going to get in between a couple of speeds, and with Honeyquist likely to make his head spin through the early stages here. But I think he's more likely to man up and keep trying once he gets stopped here. than would be any of the other front runners in here, including old Dandy, who's more of a 6 furlong speed, not the 5 furlong variety, and who was unplaced in 3 turf tries. So the exact possibilities. To me, there are only 2, and that would be a 9-4 or a 9-10. I bet 9-10 is paying a lot more too. A lot more. But Marcelo Monarch, even though he's a closer, is going to have to do better than he did last time. And his first race in a long time. You never know about these horses, though, with such scant activity and all the long gaps. If they're even sound enough to improve, second start back to the races. He is back in just 9 days here. And somebody mentioned that I put the wrong date. I was so certain that I typed July 8th onto tonight's broadcast there, guys. Chris, I hope your wife doesn't walk in, my man Chris Connors, and read the scroll there and read the banner. My wife came in and saw that I had the winner, but paid $18, and so that was nice. I didn't tell her I had 20 to win on it, so that's $360 in your pocket she's unaware of, huh? Gee, I hope she doesn't see the screen, Chris. I really hope so. I gotta dig his wife too. A really nice lady, just something about her. I really dig her. So again, Chris, I'm with you, man. I hope she doesn't see what I put on the screen there. Ask me nicely and I might take it down, Chris, in the comments there. Yeoman effort from Dropkick, an old football mode of scoring, but you don't score. If you bet Dropkick Murphy, they're at least a win because that's a righteous disqualification, in my opinion, after an inquiry and an objection. Those numbers are reversed. And Honeyquist, you're living right, I guess, if you bet on Honeyquist and get beaten to the wire at 1-5, but still get your number promoted. But I think they made the right call, the stewards, because Dropkick came out and hurted Honeyquist before making contact, and that one bump was light, but it did knock Honeyquist off stride. And then right in the shadow of the wire, the force came out again to intimidate the nine. So the nine's going to win it, if not for those Dropkick Murphy antics through the home stretch. Don't detract from the performance of Dropkick Murphy. He got back to some of his best form from last year and ran a win-worthy race, but he ran into a buzzsaw there in Honeyquist, and Honeyquist is probably going to decision Dropkick Murphy, if not for the rough stuff through the home stretch. I posted where my man George said, moral of the story, never bet a 1-5 horse. I don't bet 1-5 shots to win, ever, never. My policy is I won't bet any kind of a favorite that I don't think is akin to a cinch. And I certainly don't go as low as 1-5 on anything. But in that instance, I really thought Honeyquist was something of a cinch. And I thought it was pretty obvious who you could narrow the potential second place finishers down to, either Dropkick Murphy or Marcella Monarch. Now, the way I bet the race, I wanted Marcella Monarch second. So I bet them equally, in equal increments, that 9-10 combination, and then the 9 and 4 also. And I figure if it runs 9 and 4, I'm going to break even and recoup my Marcella Monarch investment with him to be second. And if Marcella Monarch gets up for second, I'm going to make money. I'm going to score in the race. So that's how I went about it. I probably should have prorated the amounts that I bet to take the same amount out of the race either way, whoever runs second. But I didn't do that. I kind of went for the gusto and punched the same ticket in the same amounts, 9-4 and 9-10. So my man Chris Connor said, don't worry, Mark, my wife does not come into my sanctum during the show. She understands this is my quiet time. Is it generally loud at your house, my man Chris? Is it really loud there? 5.5 furlongs for the fifth race. Never threes. It's all dirt from here on in, baby. 12-5 Phillies mares. And Israel Acevedo, who sends out the little Sultana, scratched the other speed out of here that had the one post. And this is kind of dirty pull. And had it done to me a lot when I was in charge of a racing office and when I was second in command as well. What a horseman will do when he's eager to see a race go. And it's going to be a short field, maybe not used at all. He'll put 2 in there with an intention of running only one of them. And it's very self-serving. There's really no way to prevent it or to keep them from doing that unless the stewards really hammer on guys that do that. And they have limits too and parameters in which they must operate. It was $1.50 fine back when I was in the office, and maybe it could escalate if a guy was a repeat offender. But you see it all the time in modern horse racing. It's not unique to the current office crew at Mountaineer, but it's not fair to the fans because if you pre-handicapped and didn't know which of the speeds that Acevedo was going to scratch, then you're kind of up the creek. I assumed that you assumed, being studious handicappers, that he wasn't going to run both front runners right at each other. So hopefully you guessed which way he was going to go with the scratches. You shouldn't have had to, because it's just a little bit of dirty pull for a trainer to do that, to put 2 in to a race that he really wants to go, and it's looking like a short field. Well, one of the entries is made in bad faith, and he knows the horse is going to be scratched. When I was in the racing office, I termed those kind of entries reindeer, as in reindeer games, as in the horsemen are playing games in a case like that, playing games to make a race go. So Joe Narcavish, my mentor and the greatest racing official in the history of Mountaineer, he picked it up too, and we began to term them reindeer. So the crew would be walking by, and one of us would say, "We got a reindeer," and the 6th in the book, boss. Or Joe would say, "Sir, we got a reindeer," and the 7th and a reindeer in the 8th. And the crew would be looking at us like, it's not Christmas time. I don't see any snow outside and nothing with antlers moving through the entry box. What the hell are you people talking about? It was code speak. for bad faith entries. Reindeer was the term that I coined. And I couldn't say that kind of stuff when I worked in the industry. I couldn't, but I can say it now. This is my channel, baby. And I will speak the truth as I know it. 5.5 for the 5th race. This is a never 3. Fillies and mares. I think I mentioned that already. And Little Sultana is the speed that's going to run in here. Little Sultana has squandered about 6 or 7 leads on the hard copy form there. So she has been known to quit. Now, last time she wins at 4.5. It's a lot easier to hold a 3-length lead at 4.5 than it is at 5.5. And not simply because of the extra 220 yards, but because you got stronger horses in pursuit at the furlong longer distance here. So that can be the difference maker sometimes. Little Sultan has been off for 2.5 months, was off for 2.5 months before the last one. So maybe likes this kind of spacing, or maybe has some physical issues. The Little Sultana. I'm not all that impressed with her form. She was certainly overmatched at Indy a few times. And she will open the lead here for sure. And she is 1 for 1 over the mountain main. No placing judges required. But it wasn't a good field. It was a deep closer with really lousy Charlestown form. And maybe a West Virginia bred that clunked up for second there. Wasn't going to get close to Little Sultana. So she might wire this, but she might not too. I'd like to be more specific, but that's just kind of how I see the Little Sultana in here. Now, if you happen to look at the other speed that Acevedo had entered from the 1 post, that speed looked equally quick and probably stronger in the late game. And I think would have proved more formidable in here. So let's talk about the horses that are going to run. So Kevin Price says, I finally agree with the call. Yeah, I think all horse players are like that, man. A good call is a call that puts money in your pocket, you know? Although I guess you're being objective there, my man. Hojan Lee says, Linda Rice is the queen of the bad faith entry. Jones has a no-hitter through 6. The manager, if you can call him one, takes him out. Now it's 2-0 Atlanta. Yeah, that was a disaster in the making for the Pirates' much maligned manager, Donnie Boy, who a lot of astute baseball observers believe does not have a touch, does not have a feel for his bullpen, and goes too much by pitch counts and analytics. And many a time he's pulled a starter that was rolling well, and then the hideous bullpen comes in and blows it for the starter and for the rest of the team. I knew that was freaking going to happen. I just did. We're not here to talk baseball, but hopefully you guys don't mind. So getting back down to business here, and we're going to talk about the rest of the field here. The horses will be in pursuit, at least on paper, of Little Sultana. Sip and Speed tanked last time, but that was on synthetics. Is a winner on synthetics, so maybe should have run better than that, huh? Sip and Speed the time before squanders a 3-length lead, but that was at a mile. Now it was run down with a buyer that was a decline from the previous couple of figures, and I'm not big on the horse that ran by Sip and Speed there, so this horse maybe showed signs of tailing off by blowing a 3-length 8th pole cushion in an off-turf race the start before. This horse can sprint, and the best career buyer does represent a sprint performance that found this horse just win in impressive fashion by a big margin on March the 5th. So I think the cutback could help this horse, Sip and Speed. Majestic Flame, number 3, is 4-1, 2 for 2, unbeaten is Majestic Flame, and blew to the front for the debut win, and then comes back to rally in the next one. Very rarely will you see anything that can run wrist for 75 or 4,000, anything like that first time out of the box, unless it's a clever outfit that wants to cash a bet, or else the horse has got some physical issues that make the connections think, okay, this runner's got talent and is going to be precocious, but is more likely to be around for a good time than for a long time. Majestic Flame comes back, and as if anybody missed the point, they stuck their tongue out and Double Dog dared somebody to claim this horse with a $4,000 placement. Majestic Flame must have a little racehorse in her, because in this instance, she rallies from next to last to win. Although that was kind of a somebody's got to win it horse race, because the runner-up, Dream Life, is super quick, but has a bad case of the quits, just a bad case of the quits. So you see the drop-off in speed figs for Majestic Flame. So I'll credit her for professionalism and for running on when the winner quit, but the winner just laid down on the track out there. And I'm still a little curious about the placement psychology here. A third straight claimer for Majestic Flame, who does nonetheless step up in class. So I'm not real sure what to expect from Majestic Flame, to be honest with you guys. My lucky day was claimed from J. Michael Baird by Juan Pablo Silva. J. Michael Baird's a real good manager of his stable and a guy who knows his blood stock. Maybe doesn't get quite the run out of a horse that Juan Pablo Silva does. So Silva stepped in and made a smart claim on My Lucky Day. When My Lucky Day was in on dirt, first time off the bench, unlikely to win. So he knows that he's going to take that 2-life condition for this West Virginia bred over to grass. And she wins like a good thing in a race that really set up for her rally. I'm not sure she proved a lot there in that 3-5 victory. Comes back in her next one. And now we're talking about a different story. I know that she was beaten a long ways, but she was also second there, My Lucky Day, to like a 1-5 shot or a 2-5 shot who would just won a 4-life allowance at Thistledown. A Juan Pablo Silva horses. They ran first and second there. And no way My Lucky Day was going to get close to back on track, but still posted her best ever buyer on dirt. So now I guess she merits some respect on dirt. And she was beaten a long way again, but that winner is beyond bona fide. Just a world in a galaxy above this field. The horse that My Lucky Day was second to last time. So all of a sudden, she's a player on dirt, I would say. My Lucky Day, and she's bet accordingly here at 5-2. Skipping the little Sultana, 0 minutes to post, and how close are they to the gate here? Because I think I'm jabbering on here maybe a little bit too long. I think I missed a break one time when I was going on and on, guys. By the way, they drag the post times, though. They can't be at the gate yet. Nah. So then you come to Buzzworthy. Buzzworthy, yet another tough read. The dreaded voided claim last time, which I hate to see. And drops down in class for this Buzzworthy. Sunland, enough talent to be second at an allowance optional, enough talent to win. A couple of straight non-claimers there at Albuquerque and Turfway Park there for Buzzworthy. Phoenix is tough enough. And this horse certainly talented enough to win this race. But what's up with a break from March until June? And then you get the voided claim last time at a Churchill Downs. But those races, non-life claimers, 20, 30,000 at Churchill come up so much more solid than this race does at Mountaineer, and way tougher than Mountaineer allowances to boot. So I don't know. You guys tell me, how worried should we be about that voided claim on a horse that's been sold since? Buzzworthy, who is the favorite here at 8-5. And I would say is going to remain the favorite. It seems like Juan Pablo's determined to put Jose Leon on something live. Right off the bat, I thought he's just going to kind of dole some of his non-live mounts, horses that are sore, something like that, over to Leon with Leon's atrocious record on the year. But Leon took a tough beat last night on a Silva horse that was really solid and a prime contender one step beyond. So it looks like the horses that Silva puts him on are going to be live horses. So normally I look at his record and think Juan Pablo's got so many other better riders at his beck and call that if he puts Leon on something, it's a horse he doesn't like. But I'm not sure we can assume that at this point. I'm not at all sure. And the guy's not a bad rider. It's not as bad as his record looks. Making me, let me put it in those terms. If I liked Buzzworthy here, I would not necessarily not bet him because of the jock's record. Very unorthodox pilot who likes to come from behind. And if he's going to lose, pouts and stands up at the tack about 3 jumps from the wire. But that's not really relevant here, is it? This race is a hot mess for me. I guess you guys have gathered that by now. And I am not going to hit the bet on anybody button here. Guys, I don't say this at all, but since the situation calls for it, I'm really charitable in my private life. But that guy didn't strike me as legitimate, and so he's out of here. I just didn't like the cut of his jib or the way that he phrased his plea there. So he's no longer with us. Anyways, Little Sultana does hold sway, and that's where all the late money went. Even money on Little Sultana, but they're getting to her late in the big way. I don't think she was any kind of a cinch at 5.5 furlongs. Little Sultana, Strange Bedfellows, those exacted jockeys, the legendary, dependable Deshaun Parker on top. And then second, you have Mr. Leone. Mr. Leone ends up second, not Sonny Leone either. We weren't talking about Sonny Leone there. I'm not surprised that Majestic Flame pulls up because pull back the video on my pre-race comments, and I said they were double dog daring somebody to take Majestic Flame last time with a 1-for-1 record to the tune of a 3-length win and a 61 buyer. And that means she's got some physical issues, definitely physical issues. And I thought it was really bizarre, even up to 12.5, that this 2-for-2 horse is risked a third straight time for a claiming price at Mount. And something wasn't right there. Just didn't have the right feel to it. I sensed she had some serious physical issues, infirmities, and unfortunately, she doesn't make the course tonight. Majestic Flame. Yeah, I've been conned so many times, Mr. Lee, in such imaginative ways, and some that we'll get into that. I'm the stupidest guy alive. I'm just insane. The way I got conned over somebody that got into my computer under the pretense of being the Geek Squad from Best Buy. I got to be the only living human that got conned all to hell by somebody with an Indian accent on the phone. Yeah, that's me. That's how stupid I am. And man alive, did they really stick it in and break it off. And just caused me all kinds of problems the last time that I got conned. That guy didn't look for real to me. Did he to you guys? I don't think so. And how am I going to get him money anyways at this time of night? I'm stupid about that too. Sixth race. I actually like a horse in here. The sixth race, which has been scratched down to smithereens though. This is Anometers twice in 12 months for $7,500, fillies and mares. We're going 5.5, which is an odd little in-between distance that I like. I like it a lot because it offers different dynamics usually, and a different handicapping approach is required than you would use in a more one-dimensional 5H race or the standard issue 6 furlong sprint distance. 5.5. It's kind of like, have you guys ever seen, and I love those old 1960s sun-drenched Westerns, the B Westerns. Have you guys ever seen Heaven with a Gun with Glenn Ford, where he plays an ex-man of the cloth, where he plays a current man of the cloth who's an ex-gunfighter, and he's going to help the sheep ranchers against the evil cattle barons who want to run them right out of the valley. And so the guy who played Chief Clifford in McLeod, I love McLeod. So Chief Clifford plays the bad guy, an interesting casting decision. The gunslinger who the evil cattle barons bring in to gun Jim Boy, the Glenn Ford ex-gunfighter, current preacher character down, and they're sitting at a table. And they both know what it's all about. They both know what's going on. And so the Chief Clifford character looks across at Glenn Ford and says, "You ever drawn from a sitting position, Jim Boy? Takes a certain knack." Well, 5.5 furlongs take a certain knack, believe me. So we got, what, 4 to the post in here? And I'll keep talking and slip on over at the same time to check what the odds board looks like. You know, if somebody makes a menace of themselves or causes any kind of disturbance, we're going to keep order in the dungeon. Definitely, guys. Just let me know if somebody's coming in and bothering people or somebody doesn't look right or shouldn't be here. Because it's my house, and I'm going to keep an orderly house, guys. SS Cosmopolitan used to have some speed, and the one post might be a catalyst here in a race that totally lacks speed to go out and snag command. One of my race flow notes concerns this event. I'm going to go post it across the bottom, 6th race. In a distinctly sluggish field, which contender, Everhart or a little bit crazy, will race more alertly to capitalize? Maybe SS Cosmopolitan sets the pace for a couple of furlongs, but not really a contender off the current form there. Pasta Salad Ronda was 5-1 first time out over the mountain, Maine there. There was not a real strong field on paper, and she was coming off a good race, except she wasn't because her most recent race then was all the way back in January. I know she makes this hero move to the pre-stretch and then falls apart, which makes you believe if she moves forward from that the cutback, I may see her flying late, but they didn't draw it up like this in the tack room. This was not the plan. To run her 5.5 furlong second start off the bench there, Pasta Salad Ronda. And this is the race so devoid of early speed. It's somebody who's much better positioned. It's going to be the strong type that even if she were to fire with no experience at 5.5, she'd be really unlikely to run them down, I think. Everhart number 2 is a horse I like here. I think it boils down pretty obviously to Everhart or a little bit crazy. And they don't have lookalike forms either. Everhart, I prefer. And these are the two who I think stand the best chance to go out there and either straight up grab command from an off-form SS Cosmopolitan or take up aggressive position right behind that one and then take the baton, maybe somewhere around the turn or when they straighten for home here. Everhart was claimed for $3,200 there. The Nulo claiming price at Mountaineer. And Juan Vasquez likes him, some Parks horses. And Everhart's a 3-time winner at Parks with the $85,000 in earnings to prove it. Everhart, who's a front-running route horse, that could translate to alertness because this 5.5 furlong race is so devoid of early foot. And Everhart is just a length behind a 22-3 there at 5.5. And a length behind a 22-4 at 5.5. And that should translate to some kind of position here. And Everhart was moving boldly in the late stages last time at a winner who I think was really live and well meant, dropping in class and from Thistledown for Nestor Rivera and a horse that took a lot of play. Everhart finished in front of Legacy Trail, who didn't get as good a trip as did Everhart, but still Legacy Trail. You see what she did in our opener there to her field. So I think that definitely boosts Everhart in here and maybe boosts her a lot. And she looks to me like she's coming around. Now, she is the best last out buyer horse, the vaunted buyer horse. So she's going to take play and may well end up the favorite here, Everhart. On the outside, a little bit crazy, kind of an unusual set of past performances here. A little bit crazy away from the game for like a year and a half and then runs second to a lone speed winner, Fancy Princess. And she was really alert and she didn't used to race alertly. A little bit crazy. Used to be a closer in those long 2-turn sprints at Charlestown. And then a little bit crazy comes back and doesn't bounce. Instead takes down a starter allowance race. I guess he had every intention of running her 7/8. But when that goes to 6 furlongs, it is utterly lacking any kind of talent. And the horse that a little bit crazy tagged there for less than super impressive buyer fig had won a $4,000 low condition going 4.5. So she was there for the taking. For a little bit crazy. He raced alertly and should be alert in here also. A little bit crazy. So I think tonight we'll find out what she really has up her sleeve and has left in the tank after that long, long absence from the race. Is a little bit crazy. He seems well spotted here for 75. Jamie Poole's not too eager to give her back as cheaply as he haltered her for. Nor does he necessarily see her as a bona fide starter allowance horse, I don't think, because that was a little bit bogus when that came off the turf and considering how bad the horse is that she ran down there. A little bit crazy. All in all, I prefer Everhart's most recent race. I think her back form might be more applicable here, the Park stuff, than the Charlestown starter allowance stuff that you see from a little bit crazy, because that was back all the way in 2024. And at 2 minutes to post, a little bit crazy is actually the favorite at 6-5. And Pasta Salad Ronda. I don't eat pasta salad. I don't do that. I like pasta and I like salad, but don't mix them together. Not for me. Just not how I roll. Really picky eater. I think I said that a couple of nights ago. So she's going to go up from 9-5, Pasta Salad Ronda. Although I've missed my call a couple of times tonight on what closing price points would be. And I think Everhart may still vie for favoritism. I don't think it's exactly cut in granite yet that a little bit crazy is going to be chalked over Everhart. I do straight up prefer Everhart over a little bit crazy. And I see those two as the prospective winners in here. And I think that'll be decided early as to which horse jumps up and shows more speed than they have been to better exploit this race's complete lack of early firepower. Boy, given the setup and the fact that his last race represented considerable improvement, I don't think he really wants turf, and he was with a much better winner last time. That would have made a ton of sense, even at a short price, to go from way, way back. But no, I'd be upstairs laying traps for big, which turned out to be modestly sized ants that were scaring the crap out of my wife. So I had to go running upstairs because I had some ant traps, and she was beside herself. So I didn't get to bed on Clear Leanish. I hope that you guys did. I really hope she's happy too. I hope my wife is jubilant that she called me away from my post here to go upstairs and chase ants, to chase insects. And I saw a grand total of 2 of them, by the way, and laid down about 12 traps. Okay, on to the next one. Hope that you guys smoked that winner out. I thought it was kind of obvious. Apologies that I had to go, guys, that I had to leave. I'm back now for the nightcap. Are you guys still around? So thanks for sticking it out. 1 mile for the last numbers twice in 12 months. Oh, these are $4,000 claimers. We got some droppers in here. Number 3, Thought. And my race flow that I put down there in complete absence of other speed. Formidable dropper, Thought, who set pace in each of his last 2 route engagements, should comfortably dictate tempo here. And I think probably that's going to be the story here, if Thought's okay on the class drop. Thought, I was in a similar situation on May the 19th when the other speed, any possible early opposition, scratched and defected. So what happens, he wins by 19 with an 82 buyer. Comes back on grass. This horse doesn't like grass. I know it's a short field, but again, afforded a soft lead. He fights tenaciously against a good grass horse who was prohibitively favored there. So short field or not, that was a good performance from Thought. And the race shape in both those instances identical to what figures to play out tonight. Now, most recently, not a good effort at 9-5, maybe a little ominous that he drops all the way down to 4,000 in the wake of that one. But I can tell you, if you pull up the chart, Mr. Arroyo, who was on Collectorate, rode 2 horses there. He rode Collectorate and he rode Thought. He literally herded Thought for most of that journey. So Thought should have been closer, should have been a lot closer in there. But my big deal, aside from not being crazy about either of the big heavy boy horses, having been away since April, early April, off their respective claims and both dropping in class off those claims. And if you like those horses, then once they're out of jurisdictional jail, why not go to Charlestown and drop them for a bigger purse? Why come here to the mountain? And they are tactically disadvantaged, to say the least, to number 3 Thought in here. Big time disadvantaged to number 3 Thought, because there's not much speed between the pair of them. If we get down to cases with these class droppers off the claim, States United and Deadpan. States United has been claimed on the class hike, has been claimed on the drop. Same situation with Deadpan. Deadpan was a reclaim, though. So big heavy boy Anthony Ferrier, a.k.a. theoretically knew what he was getting into there with Deadpan. But I promise he didn't alter this horse with a mind to rest him for 3 months and then come to Mountaineer with him, Deadpan. States United has been claimed on the drop. He's been claimed on the class hike. I think that he's been claimed a few times based on his ancient Roman history, what he's done in his career there, because he's been claimed at mainly Laurel, States United, and Deadpan claimed at Charlestown for $15,000 and claimed at Laurel as well. He's made $174,000 as Deadpan. So I don't like this kind of a pattern, this kind of a form profile, even on a claim back. And they're both behind the 8 ball in terms of tactics here. I think if Thought does what he's supposed to do and goes out and lays about a 25-2 on him to the first call, completely relaxed. Eric, the one horse I actually think may pose a more clear and present danger in deep stretch than either of the big heavy boy pair. Eric at least won a starter allowance here and won it just 3 starts ago. And it makes sense for him to drop. He hadn't been absent, and the drop makes sense because he's not an earner in starter allowance competition. He caught Cozando unfit, I think on May the 12th there, And it was a surprise at 11-1 for Eric. But I think his non-claiming heroics are all over. And he's a logical dropper and a 10-time winner is Eric. Number 2, Ember. This is the horse that I meant. It's been claimed on the raise. It's been claimed on the drop. And this is the horse that's been claimed based on his Roman history, what he's done, $200,000 there. Ember, he's been claimed at 7-1. He's been claimed at 8-1. He's been claimed at 6-1. They don't care how he looks to win it. They just like the horse and they like his history. Ember. But off those ugly Oaklawn Park races, this is the kind of runner that would usually start cheaper here under Jay Bird's management. Maybe he was dictated to by the owner, I think, in this case, to give this guy a crack and a starter allowance. I don't know if 4,000 wakes him up or not. You can't wake the dead. And his last couple of races look pretty dead to me. So to me, I think thought is incredibly obvious, given what happened the last time the race unfolded, the way it figures to play out tonight. And look what he did to that bunch on May the 19th. And I will also mention his most recent race is a lot better than it looks because Arroyo, whose light burns very brightly and who's going to be a handful for the stewards in Mount Air, by the way, Mr. Arroyo, with a couple of wins to his credit tonight, saw fit to intimidate and herd other than favored thought for a large portion of that journey, did Mr. Arroyo. So you can kind of toss this horse's most recent race out if he's okay on this class drop. And it's a little bit questionable to me because he loses by a lip for 25,000 two back. But if he's okay on this drop, then this race is over. Elfany. And none of this is going to be profitable news or much that you can turn into money because he's going to be a short price here. He might be 2-1 now, but you can forget 2-1 on number 3 thought. I would be shocked if his odds don't go south come post time here. I mean, it would be literally shocked if that doesn't happen. I don't like these horses dropping off the claim. I don't like the fact that none of them have speed. I don't like Ember's dead recent form. I think Eric might be the horse to fear here if somebody's going to come and tag thought in the late stages, which I don't think is going to happen. I really don't. Let's check the comments and see what you guys have to say. And again, apologies, guys, for what happened. I thought that's where we were going with Marky. Ants in the pants. No, it doesn't work like that in my age. Lyric. Separate bedrooms here, by the way, just for full disclosure, guys. Doesn't mean there's no activity, but it means holidays and birthdays, okay? Does that work out for you kids? How's that work? Separate bedrooms. And that was one of the big allures of building a new house, which we paid cash for, which literally bankrupted me, but I paid cash for a nice new house because I can't afford to hand a mortgage to my son. We built it for my mildly autistic son, who's 30 years old. And separate bedrooms was a big part of the appeal because in some ways we've had quite enough of each other after all these years together, but we get along well and we parent well together, okay? I'm not saying there's nothing going on, but I'm saying it's not a common occurrence. And I'm not going to jump up and jilt you good folks for that kind of action. No. That fire went out quite a while ago, kids. Somebody nailed that winner, huh? Kenny Neely said 3 missed the break is the only reason the 4 got home there. If back quickly, 3 wins next out. Kenny's a good handicapper, for sure. I did not get to watch the break real closely there. Chris Connor said maybe his wife found that he bet more than $2 on a winning bet. You know what? She stays strictly out of that kind of business. I'm not that eager to tell her the amounts that I sometimes bet. But I'm not crazy better like I used to be when I was younger and bet outlandish amounts on my opinions. Because I've grown out of some of that, and I'm a responsible adult now, I'll have you know. My main thing is I'm a lot more patient than I used to be. I never became a winning horse player until I began to exercise patience. I rarely make action bets, and I don't bet unless I think I have the best of it, guys. Otherwise, I couldn't beat the races. If I jumped in and started trying to bet every race or bet all across the country or go to simulcast like some guys do and jump up like a jack in the box once they find out what race is going to break from the gate next, I'd go broke. I would get eviscerated, absolutely eviscerated. I can only profit when I'm very patient and make sure I don't bet until I have the best of it, and only bet on tracks with which I'm intimately familiar. Maybe there's some guys out there that are good enough handicappers to just wager promiscuously from sea to shining sea, but I would get just raked over by the Sharpies that know those various circuits intimately. It just wouldn't work for me. And you go to simulcast. Is there still simulcast? There used to be, right? And you see those guys. No sooner they lose a bet than they jump up like a jack in the box and go bet the next track that's coming around, right? I don't do that. Kenny says had to rush up, was off slow. Ran okay, lost last 50 yards. Did he figure to break well, though? Does he have a good first step at 5 at furlongs? Yeah, he's been away good in his last couple of races. Being Fressa, right? Horatio Barberan's been kind of live, I think, lately. And boy, they dredged him up and resurrected him from some kind of a mummy's tomb somewhere. Because this guy hasn't run anything with a pulse in forever, it seems like. And that is the Barberans. Good timing on your part. My girl Cece is playing out west tonight. Caitlin Clark, my man, is talking about. Yeah, totally, absolutely. And I'm taping the first part of it. I think they tip off at about 5 after 10. And then I'm going to go upstairs and have my dinner, which my wife was concerned the ants would get into. But they didn't seem numerous enough or adventurous enough to me to get into my dinner. But I put out some traps, and then I'm going to be rude and excuse myself to go watch Caitlin, to watch my girl. When Paul Skeens pitches, or Caitlin Clark takes the hardwood, that's must-see TV for me, guys. Big Steelers fan, too. You guys know that the mountain's part of the greater Pittsburgh area. And I grew up in Beaver County, which is even closer to Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh sports teams have my built-in loyalty. No, my wife is not privy to my wagering accounts, Mr. Connors, nor do I hide my wins from her like you did earlier with your good wife. Your $20 to win on that $18 horse, man. Somebody says, do you bet like 3 races a card or less? Peter Pan, I'll bet every race if I like every race. I don't have any rules going in, or I might skip an entire card if I don't have a solid opinion. I don't see anything with the kind of value that I want, or I'm confused by how the track is playing, which is a common boogeyman when I do hit a losing streak. And I see Zubin as the post, and we're still getting loosened up out there, huh? I know 7-5 on thought is an illusion. This is David Copperfield stuff. Because the great and powerful Oz, who bets on algorithms, has not spoken yet. And I've been wrong a couple of times tonight about where the money would land, but I'm not wrong here. I'm not wrong at all. I think 7-5 might be a pipe dream on thought. Thought parades in big, ugly front bandages. And it's a little weird that Thought, whose last couple of 2-turn races are dynamic, drops so sharply off one single tank job at a sprint. So who knows in a case like this? So much of this game is about soundness, which is the unspoken undercurrent that informs every thoroughbred performance, man. You guys have seen, who knows? You guys have watched me at Mountaineer for years. Understand I'm a little offbeat in how I characterize a horse's soundness and kind of draw a picture of a horse's form from the bottom up and try to catch the ebb and flow of the form and equate it with his soundness and where they're at with the horse right now. I'm really situational in the way that I handicap. But I talk a lot about physical soundness and potential infirmities, which I think can be detected in a lot of ways. And some of you guys have watched me for years at Mountaineer. How many times would I express skepticism about a horse's soundness or maybe something negative I really didn't like about the way the horse had been managed or something like that? And the horse would go out there and pull up, which I couldn't crow about because that would have been bad form. And I was never happy to see a rider go down or a horse snap one off. But man, I was right about those things so many times over the years at Mountaineer because that's kind of how I handicap. in large part. I might do a video about that. I am going to drop a video tomorrow night, Friday at the latest, on the topic of the rating system, of the new Equibase rating system. Hey, got a split. All the best. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, guys. I'll be back at you Sunday, 15 minutes to post. So until then, watch for my video to drop. And I will entitle it something about the Equibase rating system. I think you'll find it interesting, guys. Anyways, Mark Patterson out.